This Q&A series is meant to be educational and answer some of your most common questions on swimming pool construction. How long do in-ground pools take to build? Well, there's a lot to unpack there, so let's dive in. We're gonna start with Gunite pools for one, and we'll go through each of the types of the pools, which are going to be Gunite, Shotcrete, vinyl, steel wall, and then fiberglass. For Gunite pools, we're talking about a 10 to 15 phase process. Now, the question is why is there a variation in the phases? This is due to the complexity of the pool, whether we have slides, grottos, fire features, that can add more phases into the overall process. And the other elements, are we building barbecues in the backyard? Are we doing fire pits? That will also add time. But fundamentally, what it comes on down to, in absolutely ideal conditions, and this is assuming that we already have the permit in hand, you're generally talking about a 3-month to a 4-month period to build an in-ground Gunite pool. What happens is during that Gunite pool construction, we're really only on site about 10 to 15 days. The rest of the time, we're waiting for concrete to cure, Gunite to cure, masonry to cure, inspections to take place, because you can have 4 or 5 inspections during that same process. So make sure that you understand that when we are building a pool that takes a 2 or 3 month time period to build, that we are not on site every day because we're waiting for various things to occur. Now, weather can also play a factor. Typically speaking, it is not as easy as, hey, it rained and we will be there tomorrow. Sometimes it may take multiple days for the ground to be dry enough for us to cure concrete. So generally speaking, yes, weather can affect things. Winter and fall builds do take longer, but again, we don't have the stress of trying to get the pool built as fast as we can, which is nice because then you can take a little bit more time on tile and color selections as you go through. But if you look at a Gunite pool, I would put 3 to 4 months as a very reasonable timeline. Now, the other factor on top of that you want to take into play is permit times. Permit times can vary radically from state to state, city to city, county to county. There are certain counties, certain cities where you can go and get a permit over the counter, meaning I can walk up, I can submit the plans, and I can get a permit. There's other counties, and although these are rare, they do happen, that can take from 6 months to a year to get a pool permit approval. Let's go to our second type of pool, Shotcrete. Shotcrete is nearly identical to Gunite. The small variation in that is the Gunite versus the Shotcrete. Gunite and Shotcrete are slightly different mixtures of the concrete that actually go in the pool. Ultimately though, your timelines are still the same, which is about a 3 to 4 month time scenario. Can the pools be built faster? Yes, under absolutely ideal conditions, that is possible. As you know, the last couple of years, very few things have actually been ideal. And if there are shortages in certain things, if we are unable to get certain things, those can also delay the process. But typically speaking, during a normal year, we can usually get those done in about a 3 to 4 month period. Let's talk about the next type of pool, vinyl. So vinyl pools, this process is a little bit different because you're cutting out some of the phases of construction. Actually, the longest part of the construction time on a vinyl is actually ordering the vinyl interior for that pool, because they can be somewhat custom in the fact of where you put your steps, the pieces that you're waiting. That is the longer part of the equation. Generally speaking, digging a vinyl, putting it in, those can be done very fast. If I had all the pieces there, I could probably do that vinyl pool in a month. But more realistically, because you can be facing up to 6 to 8 week times just to get the components in for that, you're going to have to add that on to the overall 1 month timeline, which would be a normal vinyl construction, if we can get everything in a timely manner, somewhere between 2 and 3 months. The next type of pool that we'll talk about is a steel wall. Very similar to the vinyl process. Again, it is component based, how fast I can get those components. It used to be to where many of these components were in stock, you could get them quickly, and in some cases you could actually build the pools in less than a month. It will probably return to that level of normalcy soon. Right now though, I would be budgeting a 2 to 3 month time window to build those type of pools. Finally, let's talk about fiberglass pools. Fiberglass pools, again, if we've got the shell in stock, which there are times when we will have some shells in stock, those can be as fast as a 3-week build. Very simply, what is happening is we're cutting out many phases during the construction process. The best way to look at a fiberglass pool is imagine a boat, imagine a yacht, imagine a luxury liner. That is pretty much the same process, that is pretty much the same material that a fiberglass pool is built in. And so you are in a way sinking a boat into the ground to build that pool. Now what you're cutting out is you're cutting out the steel, the Gunite and or Shotcrete processes on that pool. Why that is nice is because we're relying on less subcontractors. When we're relying on less subcontractors, we can typically speed up the process. So on fiberglass timelines, it is a quick construction, but the big factor that is going to slow that process down is how long does it take to get that specific fiberglass shell from the factory. And considerations are, you may be buying from a source that has 8 or 10 factories throughout the US, but logistically, how do you get it there? For example, how do you get a fiberglass pool in Long Island? Do you have to go across the George Washington Bridge, whatever the case may be? Many times you have to have pilot cars and things of that nature. So that's the transportation of it. The actual manufacturing process, well, you may run into a case to where that particular shell, which this is normally the case, is on a normal production line schedule, which is 6 to 8 weeks. So in our case, that is where we are. Most of the shells that we are currently running take 6 to 8 weeks to build. You tab on about a 3-week build time onto that, and that is where your fiberglass is going to be. So it can be a 2 to 3 month process under normal circumstances if you're ordering a shell that is not in stock. Now, there are many times when we will have a shell in stock, meaning this is on site in our facility in one of our yards. If we should happen, for example, to have the Nouveau model in stock, then we can build that pool as fast as possibly 2 or 3 weeks, as long as we have the permit. So it just shows you how fast a fiberglass pool can be when you have it in stock, when you have the opportunity. Ultimately, concrete pools, aka Gunite and Shotcrete pools, are going to take quite a bit longer, whereas your fiberglass and vinyl pools will be something less of a timeline.